How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. Today we're looking at some eerie mysteries that have left authorities baffled. But as always, before we dive into these fascinating cases, remember to hit that subscribe button for more creepy content just like this.
One of the most popular pieces of folklore around, stories of Spring-Heeled Jack date back to 1830s Great Britain. Spawning multiple works of fiction centered around the elusive figure, the popularity of Spring-Heeled Jack led it to becoming one of the most mysterious supernatural cases that persevered through the early 1900s. During this time, Spring-Heeled Jack was such a source of fear among British citizens that nearly everyone was familiar with the tales surrounding the urban legend. Everything about the figure contributed to his legend, from his appearance to his odd behaviour. First sighted in England in 1837, Spring-Heeled Jack would make a name for himself as a terror antagonising young women of the time. Walking alone one night, servant girl Mary Stevens would be the first to come into contact with Spring-Heeled Jack, marking the figure's reign of terror on the imaginations of the time. Mary reported the figure that would later be known as Spring-Heeled Jack as leaping out towards her, gripping her arms tight and holding her in place, reportedly grabbing at her flesh with cold claws, kissing her and ripping her clothes. Mary would have likely fallen victim to the horrible treatment from the figure had she not called out. The girl's scream sent the figure flying into the air and local residents on its trail, without luck. Spring-Heeled Jack's legacy would continue to perpetuate itself the very next day, when the figure would be reported as leaping in front of an oncoming coach, causing it to crash. Spring-Heeled Jack would then hop a 9-foot wall, cackling a deviously threatening laugh on his way. Picking up on these two odd and menacing incidents, the media would soon give Spring-Heeled Jack his nickname and begin to sensationalise the two events. Months after the sightings, London's Mayor Sir John Cowan would deliver an anonymous complaint from a resident of Peckham. The complaint was, of course, in regards to Spring-Heeled Jack, and was delivered by the mayor in hopes of weeding out anyone with any knowledge of the bizarre figure. In the note, Spring-Heeled Jack is described as having the ability to take the form of a bear, a ghost, and a devil, a tale which was then corroborated by many servant girls around Britain. The common thread of these tales being that Spring-Heeled Jack frequently appeared to torture the young women, covered in blue flames and attacking them with his claws. After many women claimed to have suffered violent fits or lost their senses at the sight of the figure, authorities began to take the figure more seriously. Whether the authorities were in search of an actual demonic figure or pranksters impersonating the figure, as had happened with similar cases in the past, it was clear that the perpetrator needed to be caught and stopped regardless. Known for his horrific appearance and leaping ability, Spring-Heeled Jack remained a popular figure of plays and literature through to his last sighting in 1904. Never to be caught or brought to justice, the ultimate fate of this horrific character remains uncertain. Another ghost that would go on to inspire the imaginations of writers of the time, the supernatural cases surrounding the Cock Lane ghost have intricate origins. William Kent of Norfolk would marry Elizabeth Lynes in the mid-1750s. The start of a loving relationship, the couple's bliss was nevertheless short-lived. The direct result of Elizabeth's difficult pregnancy was the arrival of her sister Fanny, who would capture Kent's attention after Elizabeth's untimely death during childbirth. Having stayed on past Elizabeth's passing, the couple would soon fall in love. However, a happy ending was not on the cards for the couple, who were forbidden to marry due to the church laws of the time. In order to escape the constraints of their former lives and Fanny's disapproving family, the couple would eventually take refuge in the home lent to them by one Richard Parsons of Cock Lane. Kent began their new life on Cock Lane by first lending Parsons a sum of 12 guineas, which would seemingly seal the couple's fate. As the couple couldn't be considered legitimate by society, Kent was forced to attend social functions without Fanny. While he was away, Parsons' own daughter Elizabeth would keep Fanny company. During these nights, the two would hear eerie scratching and knocking sounds on the walls. While visiting the home, a neighbouring landowner by the name of James Franson claims he saw a pale white figure ascend the stairs of the house, then disappear completely. Upon his return, Kent would attempt to get to the bottom of the odd noises, only to be convinced of the presence of a ghost nearby. The couple would continue to be plagued by the presence of the ghost through Fanny's own unfortunate passing, after what was initially thought to be a bout of smallpox. After Fanny's passing, a few key events would coincide with one another, leaving some room for doubt as to the actual origin of these events. The Cock Lane ghost would continue its haunting, while Parsons would continue not to repay Kent, leading to a lawsuit. Some believe the spirit of Fanny also began haunting the house, banging on the walls and making noises in an attempt to reveal what really happened in her dying moments. During this time, Parsons would enlist the help of a local preacher familiar with supernatural cases in order to communicate with what he believed to be the ghost of Elizabeth, Kent's first wife. Through a series of knocks, the pair would soon believe the ghost to be that of Fanny instead, who it turns out had actually been poisoned by Kent, with the initial ghostly visit thought to be Elizabeth's attempts to warn her. What would follow would be a massive trial and seance, upon learning the ghost followed Parsons' daughter Elizabeth. During this time, the ghost was judged to be a phony and an act on the part of Parsons' daughter Elizabeth in an attempt to harass Kent. While the murder case against Kent would be dropped, the legacy of the Cock Lane ghost would go on to inspire the likes of Horace Walpole and Charles Dickens alike. The death of Florida resident Mary Reeser has continued to be one of the most bizarre and mysterious cases ever documented. One morning in the mid-1950s, Reeser would be found by her landlady in an attempt to deliver a telegram. When the door to the home felt too hot to the touch, Reeser's landlady instinctively called the police. What the police found in the home would go on to haunt many of them for years to come. Inside, the remains of Reeser's body were found completely decimated. The clear outline of where Reeser's body had been was easily identified by the pile of ashes replacing her and the chair in which she had been sitting. Identifiable only by her left foot, backbone and skull, Reeser was completely cremated. However, aside from Reeser herself, there was very little evidence of any fire having taken place inside the home. In fact, only a few nearby items showed even a small amount of fire damage. Reeser's body was nearly entirely cremated, which all medical professionals involved agreed would have required an extremely high fire temperature. However, Reeser's home remained largely untouched. What's more, Reeser's skull was proven to be extremely shrunken, an effect not typically the result of spontaneous human combustion. Eventually, after FBI involvement, it would be determined that Reeser met her end due to the rare wick effect. As Reeser had been known to take sleeping pills, it was believed she had fallen asleep at an inopportune time while smoking a cigarette. Having accidentally set herself or her clothes on fire, the flames would consume body fat until they became horribly destructive, leading to Reeser's complete combustion. However, other investigators would dispute the FBI's claims, such as anthropologist William N. Krogman. Asserting that the skull would have exploded rather than shrivel if the FBI's versions of events were actually true, Krogman couldn't let the case rest. Citing the nearly pristine appearance of Reeser's home, Krogman would explain the fear and chills thinking back on the case, stating, "Were I living in the Middle Ages, I'd mutter something about black magic." Before we get to that number one spot and take a look at an infamous tree in North America thought to be haunted by murder victims, remember to hit that subscribe button and tickle the bell icon. That way you'll be in the loop about all our mysterious and scary content. There's an infamous tree in Florida's Port St. Lucie that locals believe harbours the spirits of murder victims. The site of a series of heinous crimes, Florida's own Devil's Tree seemingly remains haunted by the spirits of its victims to this day. The favourite site of serial killer Gerard Schaefer, the park where the Devil's Tree is located saw a fair share of victims. Schaefer reportedly frequently attempted to murder and violate pairs of teenage girls at the site. Eventually caught and murdered in prison, Schaefer would commit several horrific acts at the site and harm hordes of young women. Seemingly tainted by the horrible acts it was a party to, the forest would go on to be a site for several odd occurrences over the years. In particular, the Devil's Tree seemed to mark the spot where Schaefer would bury his doubles. Over the years, locals would attempt to remove the heinous reminder of the park's past to no avail. Chainsaw malfunctions, chipped handsaws, and broken axes were all the results of multiple attempts to remove the tree from the park. One Reddit post by user Tanakiteeth details several visits to the creepy site. Having reached the tree with a group of their friends, the stench of death would hit the group immediately. As though to assure the group that they were not alone in this, a large group of vultures descended on the spot, seemingly drawn to the stench of death. In order to rule out the possibility of another murder having been committed at the site, the group searched the woods for another possible body to no avail. In the end, the group had no choice but to conclude the scent and dark aura had been given off by the Devil's Tree itself, as a reminder of the horrible acts it had been a party to. Interestingly, there's another tree with similar folklore attached, also called the Devil's Tree, located in Somerset County, New Jersey. The origin of many horrible legends, such as the tree being the site of KKK lynchings and a farmer's death, the results of the tree are all similar. Those who visit the Devil's Tree are known to suffer horrible accidents after leaving. Overall, it seems that there's a common thread of Devil's Trees, resulting in extreme supernatural cases throughout North America.
If you want more scary mysteries, then check out that video on the top there. Otherwise, there's a playlist there you can binge on. Now leave us a comment down below. What are your thoughts on some of these cases? Love to get your feedback. And that's it for me. I'll see you all next time.